Ah.
Good morning. This is Greg Suddy, Suddy on Soccer, and I am here with the one and only Corey Adamson. Corey, thank you so much for joining me today.
Appreciate you having me. Like I said this earlier, I think you're the most popular guy in our sport right now, and I love it, man. I love that I'm here
right now. That's awesome.
At least one of the most popular.
Okay, so let me go ahead and do a quick promo spot, and we'll get started.
Cool.
Greg Suddy on Soccer is sponsored by Auden Technologies. Auden Technologies will take care of everything from your security camera and alarm systems to your servers and networks. Auden Technologies operates primarily out of the Midwest and the Northeast. You can contact them at INFI, that's infillc.com, or jauden at infillc.com. Thank you very much, Auden Technologies, for your sponsorship. So, Corey, head coach of the MASL 2, St. Louis Ambush 2. You guys are having a really good season. We'll talk about that and talk about what the playoffs look like and how that's going to go. But first, let's talk about a kid growing up in Clearwater, Florida.
Yeah, originally a Florida boy, and grew up 10 minutes from the beach. I think my dad, my brother, and I probably went to the beach almost every day for most of my childhood growing up, and then everything else was kind of focused around soccer and hockey and whatever other sport I was into at the time. So, it was nice. It was a fun childhood. Got to play soccer year round. So,
well, one of the things I like to sort of find out, a person growing up in the United States, an athlete, a lot of people that have watched me know I ask this question a lot. An athlete growing up in the United States has a lot of options as far as what sport to take, and soccer is popular in some places more so than others. But what was it that gravitated you towards soccer?
Initially, when I was a kid, and especially when I was growing up, I was just, I was very good at it. My brother played, I wanted to play. I just was, very good at it from a young age, and I liked it. I had a lot of fun. I loved running. I was a super high energy kid, so my parents could not wait to get me to the soccer field, I'm sure. I was very fortunate to just play for really good club teams growing up.
Gotcha.
Shout out to Clearwater Chargers, who are still unbelievable club down in Florida, but they really gave me a lot of the push, even though I spent several years with another club that's no longer there, Palm Harbor. But I just loved it. I've always loved the game. It just suits me. You can go outside any point in time with just a ball, and it made me happy. So
Nice.
I did pick up hockey. And I was a gymnast for a while too. And then after I quit gymnastics, I focused on soccer and hockey. And then I quit soccer altogether, which is crazy because, hockey was doing so well in Florida. I played for the Junior Lightning, which is Phil Esposito's club. And then, I was looking to go play Junior A's and try and, make it that way. And then my senior year of college, I was offered a scholarship to the University of South Carolina, Aiken. And then my parents were like, well, you're going to college. So I went there, and my college coach just retired. Ike Foji just kind of became my second dad while I was up there. Guided me through all of my mistakes.
Wow.
And all the things that I did wrong then, and all the things I needed to work on then as a boy becoming a man. And
right.
Yeah, that was kind of my youth right there. My youth all the way through college. I was very fortunate. I played 4 years there. I got a couple of degrees out of it. Yet to do a thing with either of them.
I read political science as one of them.
Yeah. So it's political science and business management, and I was like, I'll go be a lawyer. So that was like their pre-law kind of intro, I'll call it.
Gotcha.
And I really just loved it. I know it sounds super. It's the nerdiest thing I could say, but I loved constitutional law. That was like my favorite.
Wow, that's
class
cool.
ever. Was just figuring out it's the basics of how we got here.
I'm full of that myself. I love that. It's a very
if you understand that, you understand humanity. You understand constitutional law and how the Constitution was written. You really truly understand humanity pretty well, I think, in my opinion. But anyways, but plan A was I'm just gonna go play soccer, and I didn't realize what all that was gonna take to go play at the pro level, even from the college level. So, yeah. So all right, that's how I ended up in South Carolina and moving around.
Okay, so you have moved around, buddy. I'm reading some of your bio, and man, you've moved around. Okay, so now I don't know exactly what the timeline, other than let me ask you, when did you graduate from college? What year?
2010. I graduated college 2010, and then that whole year I spent in Atlanta. Playing for the reserve team out there, and then trying to make my way up. Ended up over the next 2 years and a half. 2 years. Over the next 2 years, up until 2012, I spent time on, I think, 6 different USL and an MLS preseason roster before either I got cut, or I got injured, or I got re-injured. Like I broke my foot twice. It was just stupid. But just bounced around everywhere. And then all of a sudden, 2012 in Kansas City in the summer, they had this big combine. And it was at the time under USL. The MISL was under USL. So you go to the USL. I was just going there looking for tryouts. I was just going to keep at it until the wheels fell off. And during that time, I spent some time living in my own car. For like almost a little over 6 months. Before a buddy of mine from college was like, "Hey, where you staying?" I was like, "They're all over the place." And he's like, "I got a couch. Come on." So, but yeah, I had a couch and a broom closet for a little while before all this happened. But 2012, I put in my application to go to the MISL combine, and so I was so excited, by the way, to be there this year. I thought it was super full circle for me. But I went to the combine. It was the first time I had ever heard of indoor soccer. I'd never heard of indoor soccer, the MISL, nothing. Because I grew up in Florida. Indoor soccer for us was because there was a tornado outside, and we had to go inside a gym and kick a ball around for a little while. That's indoor soccer to me. I didn't even play on turf until my freshman year of college, where we were in North Carolina. I never even played on turf. I knew what it was, but I never played on it before. I did nothing. So of course that turf's way different than what we play on now, which is essentially like marble. But I went to it, met Keith Tozer, met all the greats that were still coaching then, and
wow, how fun!
It was crazy. But I got hurt a week before I went. When I mean hurt, I mean my ankle was the size of like a softball. But I'm like, I'm not going to this thing. So I get there. I don't impress that well because I'm just hobbling around. It was my left leg, which is kind of the most important leg I have. It literally made all the money, it wasn't the right foot. But I show up there with that bum leg, and Danny Kelly saw me in the airport, and I'm sitting there looking like somebody just shot my dog. Because I was at the time, I think I was 24 or 25. So I was like, we're coming up to it, man. We're coming up to, I got to go grow up.
Right.
And Dave comes over and he's like, it's Corey, right? And said, yeah, I didn't get picked for like the last game of the last day, right? So he said, yeah, you played in these other places. And I was like, oh, shoot, this guy knows me. Okay. So maybe I was on somebody's radar. He said, you know, when you get healthy, here's the PASL and here's all the MASL coaches and emails, and start emailing them. See if you can go out and just for a preseason. If you can work your way through a preseason, you might have a shot. And I was like, they'll let me do that? I said, oh, yeah, do it all the time. I was like, so I emailed at the time, it was the PASL and MISL.
Right.
I emailed 30-something coaches, like weekly. I would email them. One hit me back, and that was Greg Howes out in Las Vegas. He's like, I got this expansion team. We're finishing up preseason. You literally caught us on the last week of preseason. If you want to come out here, fly out here, come do that, and we'll take a look at you. We'll see. So,
wow,
less than a few $100 at the time. I was like, I'll be there. I'll be there. So I flew a one-way with all my stuff that I packed up. Just flew one way, and I don't even remember the hotel I stayed in, but it was like the cheapest thing you can get off the site, like off the strip. It was like way in the burbs, just
right,
trash. Stayed out there, trained for a few days. He said, yeah, I think we can get you in. So, man, I signed, I think the next week for a per game contract.
Okay.
Felt great. You know, I went on the first away trip. I'm trying to get to know the guys. I'm trying to get to know the system. Indoors, crazy. But I told you I grew up playing hockey, so I kind of understood the tactics a little
There
bit.
you go. Wow. Yeah.
Like, seems like I'm kind of made for this game. Like I really, like,
wow.
I'm born
That's
for this,
cool.
man. Like I love this stuff.
That's cool.
Yeah. So I ended up playing with them. I played a game with them in Mexico, in Tijuana.
Yeah.
Came back the next Monday to go train, and I tore my MCL like 90%. So it was supposed to be about a 12-week injury, which is basically the rest of that season, barring like the last few weeks of playoffs. So I'm out this practically this whole season, but I'm still showing up to trainings. I'm still getting, you know, like a lot of knowledge. Like Greg Howes is an amazing coach. After meeting Tozer and spending time around Tozer and getting tactics from Tozer, I realized like very, very similar. And then of course I had Everton as a coach. I'm like, these guys are all the same. Like this guy was a genius. He just passed it down to all these guys. And I was fortunate enough to learn from the guy. As my first, like that was my first gig, was essentially like on the bench with another indoor legend. So from there, I tried one more time at outdoor soccer, thinking like that was going to be the thing. Definitely was not. And a buddy, a teammate that I had made, a friend of mine that I had made from that team that I tried USL with, was like, hey, let's go play this indoor stuff. There's a team in St. Louis. I got family in St. Louis. We can make this work. And I was like, bro, I'm done. Like, I'm done. No. And of course, he talks me into it. We go up there. There's 140 some odd people.
Oh my!
Daryl Duran chose me as one of the like first three. And,
wow.
Ended up being, you know, it was me and Di Maria and then Beasley that we ended up. I was the first one that we signed for the tryout, and then everything just clicked in St. Louis, man. Everything. You know, my first game, I scored the first goal of the game, like the inaugural goal for the team.
Right.
Like, I just remember that moment being like, all this work and all these sacrifices and all these injuries and all this everything, like I just needed that. That was all I needed, and I was so happy. But I'm a competitor, so of course that lasted 4 seconds, and then I was like, I need more. All I want to do is be in this league. So I made it full time. From that first year, I was like, no more outdoor. I don't even care about outdoor. It's all indoor for me. I love this stuff. So had some incredible years with St. Louis. Then had the opportunity to go play for the Wave at the end of our second season. We weren't making playoffs. It was I was kind of put in a bit of an ultimatum, but the other side of the ultimatum, it's either you do this or we're going to trade you to the Milwaukee Wave. And I was like,
huh?
Really? They're in second place right now?
There we go.
Yeah, okay, I'll do that one. We'll do that one. So I got traded to Milwaukee, and that team, looking back at that team, man, I don't fit. Like that group was unbelievable. What the numbers they put up, the careers that those guys had, they were absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
And it was 2014 at that point. Right. So that squad, I think the only team that could have beaten anybody was Kansas City, and then Baltimore, obviously. But that was the year Kansas City went undefeated under Vlatko and then lost to Baltimore in the finals. But just being a part of that roster, being under Jules, being able to learn from him, he gave me so much in such a small time. Every time I see him, I annoy the hell out of him. I know I do because I thank him every single time I see him. He gave me so much of that,
that's very cool.
Those first few weeks. But
that's very cool.
Yeah, man, that's kind of been traded a few other times. Spent time in Cedar Rapids and Orlando, and then started transitioning to the other side, the darker side of things, the head coach side of things. So, or the coaching side.
You did some coaching in Orlando. You were an assistant coach, player coach in Orlando. Yeah. And then you went over to the NISL, the Memphis Americans, and you coached the men and women's team.
Yeah.
For the Memphis Americans. You had some success with that. I mean, I guess the women won the championship, didn't they?
Yeah, women won back-to-back championships. They were absolute terminators. They were unbelievable. I was extremely lucky to have that group. Extremely lucky because they're up, and I told them this to their face. So there were several other teams that I felt had way more talent or athleticism or a combination that these girls didn't care. Like they knew what they were doing and they did it to a T. They expected to win. And then my boys, oh my God. That was one of the best groups. That was one of the best groups I've ever had the privilege of being around, just from the types of people that they were to obviously what they were able to do on the field to what they were able to buy into, and execute. They held each other accountable. They challenged each other. When they weren't, I would get into them, and then they'd be like, "Yeah, you're right. I hate this guy." And then it was awesome. Not real hate, but you know what I mean. And it was such a great atmosphere. And on the field, it was two of the absolute best years of my career, from wins and losses. I was a player coach as well, so I got to play with the guys, which was a ton of fun. I really, really thoroughly enjoyed that role. There's a lot of drawbacks to being a player coach, but there's also a lot of positives too, especially when, I was able to put up points and do the job very well still. So, that was such an amazing time. And, from a wins losses, I think my wins were, my win percentage was pretty good. So that always makes everything better. So
absolutely. Absolutely. Did you go directly from the NISL back to St. Louis?
Yeah. So, NISL had its issues. Don't need to beat a dead horse, but I was looking at a couple different life options and a couple of different ownership options and all sorts of different things. And then all of a sudden, just all this turmoil that I had going on up there. I get a call from Jeff Locker here in St. Louis, and we talked. We had a great conversation. I met him and Shelly back in St. Louis, probably the next weekend or next week, and then 10 days after that, I had to show back up in St. Louis for preseason. So
gotcha.
Played all last season, and it was obviously a struggle for us on the field, but I love being back in St. Louis.
Right.
I'm raising a family here now. So
Right.
all my
St.
family's
Louis.
down in Florida, but there's no indoor soccer in Florida. Therefore, there's no indoor soccer career in Florida. So,
Right.
I gotta try and be here. So,
St. Louis is a neat town. I lived in St. Louis for 5 years.
did you really?
Yeah, I used to work for the TWA back in the late '80s, and I was a flight service manager for TWA. So I actually had a residence here in San Diego, but I flew back and forth. I had an apartment in Woodson Terrace.
Nice.
Yeah,
Heck yeah. That's awesome.
and nobody, and just by me mentioning Woodson Terrace, instantly tells somebody from St. Louis that I was in St. Louis, because otherwise you wouldn't even know Woodson Terrace
I
exists.
wouldn't even have any idea where that is. Yeah. Yeah.
It's right near the airport. No, it's right near
Yep.
the airport. Yep.
Right there. So
And
I've like I said, I've loved every bit of St. Louis. I kind of worked my way from the west back east. So I started in St. Peter's, and it's the burbs out there.
Right.
And that was cool. And then I got a little bit closer to the city, but more central in Bridgeton. I wanted more land, and you could get more land in Bridgeton. So I was like, this is great.
Yep.
Had some great team parties over there.
Nice.
And baby showers, and like ragers, literally just the boys getting together. We're all cooking and having a good time. It was fun. Those are some of my favorite like memories of playing, is actually just being there in the backyard, but with the guys. And then now I'm out in the city. I'm actually in front of our MLS stadium. It's downtown, having a good time.
Yeah, so. I mean, I remember traveling over to St. Charles a lot. I loved St. Charles, a quaint little village there by the river. I loved the old town area. That was a real neat spot to hang out.
Yeah.
Also, Laclede's Landing. There used to be a bar down there called Muddy Waters at Laclede's Landing, right by. I don't think it still exists, but it was right by the.
I don't know that it doesn't. That sounds super familiar, but I haven't been there. So it may still be.
Of course, anybody knows where Laclede's Landing is. If you don't, it's right by the arch.
Yeah.
Right on the waterfront, right by the arch. And then driving in the River Road in Illinois in the autumn, going out, after the trees have all turned and everything, that whole area. Hannibal, driving up to Hannibal and visiting Hannibal, doing all that kind of touristy stuff that you do on a weekend. Yeah. That whole area, though, it's a beautiful, beautiful area. I kind of feel
there's so much to do out here.
Yeah,
it's not like San Diego. Like in California, you got whatever it is you want to do. Anything you want to do is in California. But St. Louis,
right now, it's pretty interesting. Let me tell you a funny story. Right now, we just had a storm come through, so the local mountains are snow-capped. And the mountains are probably, from the beach to the snow is probably 2 hours, easily 2 hours drive. And you can play in it. You can go surfing in the morning and go skiing in the afternoon. I mean, literally.
Yeah.
But
I'm a big outdoors guy, so the fact that like I don't live there seems kind of weird. I don't live in San Diego. I would fit there perfectly.
It was one of those things. There was a friend of mine in St. Louis, and when we got to talking shortly after we met, they made a comment to me. They said, "Oh, you're from San Diego. You've never seen snow." And I said, "Okay, well, let me explain snow to you. Okay, snow is only on my car when I put it there. It's always in a place where I can leave it. And it's never on my front porch."
So great. So great. All within a couple hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
And the other thing that was funny, I was explaining the weather. So I had been there. I'd been through a couple of full seasons in a couple of years in St. Louis at the time, and I was trying to explain the seasonal changes in San Diego. And I said, basically, look at it this way. In the wintertime, it's a cool, wet spring. In the summertime, it's a warm, dry spring. In autumn and spring, it's just springtime.
Yeah.
And the thing that you guys have that just blew me away was autumn, because there is really no changing of the colors and stuff like that. I mean, that's just so beautiful. It's so beautiful.
We only the problem is we only get it for like 3 days. It starts and like, but you never get that beautiful like picturesque unless you are very, you gotta be on point. You gotta go out that day because it's not gonna be there tomorrow, you know. And because I mean, we're almost morphing into 2 different seasons. It's either winter or it's fall.
Right.
Or sorry, summer. Like winter or summer. Like that's it. There's no. We're getting out of fall. We're getting out of spring. We're going longer on all of them, and it's just like it is scorching, or it's like 0 degrees. So it's it needs to get back to what it used to be, having a little bit longer autumn and actually being able to see all the trees all at once. Look nice and pretty, and then do the thing. Not do it in a couple of hours. But
Corey, let's talk about something that some people may not know. Yeah, I found this really interesting. So you also play arena football.
Yeah. Okay. I played for 4 years.
Okay, so let's talk about that. That's really
receiver. Cool. I have 2 catches. Sorry, for 7 yards.
Okay.
And a pass interference. So good stats from the receiving standpoint, but I was believe it or not naturally very good at kicking. So I picked that up pretty quick. Lied on my application. It was the owner of the Ambush at the time who owned the football team, and he wanted to try and find a way to like intermingle them. And I had done a good job getting myself out there in St. Louis. And he asked me, he's like, "Hey, did you ever play kicker?" And I was like, "Yeah, all through high school." Total lie. Like you 100% lie. The kickers for our high school football team were always our goalkeepers. They were always the goalkeepers for soccer, because all they would just do was just hoof that thing down the field. So of course they had leg. Right. And actually one of them ended up playing arena football too. So I can't even dog the guy. The guy was a stud. So didn't even play through high school, but I was like, yeah, of course. I just didn't play in college because obviously I was a soccer player. So it's like, why don't you go to tryouts? There's a couple kickers that are going to be there, but if you're close, we're going to use you. And I was like, sounds like a great opportunity. Okay, sounds good. So I go out there, made the team. We had an unreal team. We had like former NFL draft picks all over the place, like guys that were local St. Louis guys that were just hitters, man. Like they would just smash people. They were awesome. Some great receivers, great quarterbacks. Made the championship game. Ended up losing the championship game, but I was fortunate enough to kick us into the championship game in Florida in front of my grandmother. Never saw me play a professional soccer game, but she saw me play a pro arena football game. And they played in the same arena as the Tropics, which was crazy, before the Tropics even got there.
Right.
Tropics got there after the fact.
Interesting.
Yeah. So played a few years of that. Had a great time doing it. It was one of the most fun locker rooms. This is the one thing I am like super proud of. More than anything, I led my rookie season. I led all kickers and tackles.
Oh, wow.
Led all kickers and tackles. I had 7 of them. That was like,
well,
the
Corey,
most, I was the most proud I've ever been.
You're not a really big guy.
No. 5'7" on a real good day. And at the time, I was able to bulk up to 170. And then my subsequent years were 175. But I was a little butterbean by that point, because I was coming off like straight off of MASL season. So I had to be like super lean. And then like first week of April was preseason for football. So I essentially had 3 weeks to go from lean soccer to, hey, when this bus hits you, you need to have enough meat on you so you don't die. So I go, okay, sounds good. I'll do that. I can do that. And like when you hear like 6'5", 300 plus, You go,
Right.
yeah, that's huge, man. That's huge. And then
Right.
I stood next to it and I realized it's an elephant. That's not big. It's an elephant.
It's
Like that is
giant.
huge,
Yeah.
huge. You don't realize how gigantic these guys are until you stand next to them and you're like, oh, you hit me, man. It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt.
I had an experience in JFK Airport, New York City, and I'm going through the concourse and standing there to get in line to get on a plane. It's Hulk Hogan. And and at the time, he was in his prime, and this is in the 80s.
Yeah.
And there was a person I knew that in St. Louis that followed the wrestling. And I mean, I wasn't a fan. It's choreographed and the whole thing, and I don't really care. But you know, she was really, really into this thing, and I thought, you know, I'm going to go over. I'm going to get his autograph for her. And the person that I was in the airport with, one of the crew members I was in the airport with, looks at me and says, he's not going to. He's busy. He's doing something. Don't bother the guy. You know, I mean, he's obviously going somewhere. So I'm going to do it anyway. And super friendly guy. Yeah. But yeah, I'm 5'10", and at the time probably, I don't know, 190, 195 maybe. And he just massive man. I mean, absolute giant of a man. So I mean, I know exactly what I mean. I don't know what his stats are, but you know how big he is.
Like 6. I think he's 6'4", 6'5". It's funny, you know, he lives in Clearwater.
Oh, I didn't know that.
My U8 coach, my U8 soccer coach, owned a gym on Clearwater Beach in a little strip mall upstairs. And it's funny because there's a statue of Hulk Hogan right there.
Oh, okay.
Hulk worked out there. So on my off seasons, I'd go to that gym. That was a gym I would go to. My mom ran into him randomly. He's like, yeah, you know, we got all kinds of. It's kind of a small gym, but you know, some pretty important people come to it. Like it's kind of that kind of a gym. So, you know, as long as he's respectful and everything like that, he can come too. So my mom tells me this. I'm like, free gym in the off season sounds great. Wow. So I go there. Wow. Hulk's in there. I walk around. He's startlingly large. I walk into the locker room as he's washing his hands and he's about to walk out. And like, as soon as I turn the corner, I see him. I was like, that's a whole wall. That's a gigantic wall. Just right there. He's huge. He's massive. Of course, he goes in there, he bench presses half the gym anyways and curls the rest of it. So,
oh my.
What were they? Yeah. 60-inch pythons, whatever, however big his arms were. They're still that size, and so are his veins, though. Unfortunately, those things are.
But that was kind of the thing when I was reading through some of this about you, and I read that you had played as a kicker in arena football, and I mean I've met you, and as I said, you're not.
How that guy survived?
How did that happen?
God didn't make me real tall, but He made me stupid, fast, and very strong bones, I guess. Which when you combine those make for a decent athlete most of the time. So I think that's I don't know. The worst one, my first catch was great. 7 yards. I should have had a touchdown. Second one, I got stood up at the line. It was a little bubble screen and catch the ball. I stood up at the line, and all I remember is just like trying to fight through. And as I like try to duck inside, I look over this way and I just see like their whole defensive line coming at me. As I'm like on the wall, and I got hit. I went down so fast. I don't even remember going. I got hit so hard and so fast, like I didn't remember it. Not because I got concussed. It was just like so jarringly intense. Right. The adrenaline just spikes like crazy. I didn't feel anything. Oh, that's what it was. Like adrenaline spikes that hard. It was like I was about to be in a plane crash or something. And I remember getting back up and going, all right, that wasn't too bad. I guess I can do that again. That's the worst of it.
That's as hard as it gets.
Yeah. I regretted that thought the next morning because I had felt like I had been in a horrible car wreck. Like a horrible car wreck. I don't know how these guys do this for a living. I know they're all that size. I don't understand how they have that in their bodies.
Right.
It's insane. It's
Yeah,
insane.
no kidding. So let's talk a little bit about what's going on currently.
Yeah.
First, let's talk about the ambush M1.
Yeah.
They're fighting for a playoff spot.
We're on a heater, bud. We're on a heater.
I know.
Yeah. We picked up some unbelievable pieces at the trade deadline. Jeff is just a master at it. What we got, the talent that we brought in with the talent that we had in the offseason, which with what we kept from like the past few years and, a few points beyond that, but they just all gelled really well. Like
Nice.
It's so rare to have, especially in this league, a consistent group that all gels together, that all has the same work ethic and work ethic value.
Right.
And that, I'll tell you, we got a lot of superstars that are real under the radar that don't say much. And I mean like elite level, best in the league, top 5 total type players,
Wow.
on this team right now. And we've built a lot of supporting pieces around it.
Right.
We've better aligned, especially through the 2 most recent trades. Not the Franker or the Williamson trade, but really like getting Colin and getting Riley is.
Right.
They were so undervalued, in my opinion. Truthfully, and they have shown it since they've been here. And meshing what we have now has been incredible, truly like incredible. And it's resulted in 4 of the 5 games we've been winning games well. Like
yeah, absolutely.
It's not like we're squeaking stuff out. And like some of the score lines were a lot closer than maybe we like.
Right.
And we're working on that. Especially the 6 attacker stuff, man. If we could just knock off the 6 attacker, we'd have these blowout wins, man. But but again, it's kind of like the game's too far out of reach by the time it's even gotten there. So that's super positive. And again, I think we all like our chances of making the playoffs, and I don't think I don't think anybody's looking at us like, yeah, I'll take them first round or second round. Like that's clearly a team that's like really putting some stuff together. So
well, you guys seem to be peaking at the right time for sure. And the chemistry that you're talking about, the gelling, the chemistry that you're talking about is crucial to keeping things going, and to have something, a core of people like you're saying. Is there anything? It was pretty popular and spoken about on social media. Can you say anything to the Frank and Uzi Taiyu story that was going on in St. Louis this season?
There's dozens and dozens and dozens of other players that this goes through. Like it happens every year. Like not every situation is ideal for the type of player or what the type of team or anything. It wasn't like Frank and Uzi weren't working, but our record wasn't reflecting what we needed, and there were some holes that we needed to really help solidify. I think we had the opportunity to do that, and 2 truly elite level players got swapped for each other, and I think both teams have benefited from that tremendously. I think that's already been shown. In my opinion,
yeah, absolutely.
Rob Williamson's one of the best defenders in this entire league. Like there's not a hole in his game. There's nothing that he can't do. He can't mark he can mark in zone. He can mark man to man. He can press. He can take their biggest guy. He can take their quickest guy. The guy can kind of do everything. And oh, by the way, he's got a rocket of a shot and scores goals too, and loves to get forward. So He's a great player. And then obviously Frank scored what, like 12 goals in 2 games or 3 games or something like that for Milwaukee. So clearly, you know, those things are working out. So like that stuff just happens. It's not, people want a story and they want something bigger than maybe is actually there, but sometimes players, you know, that's just how it works. It's how it works in this league. It's how it works in every other major sports leagues. You know, and we see it over and over. But at the end of the day, they're 2 incredible human beings. You know, there's a lot of people that love to go online and express their opinion on people they've never even met or had a conversation with. And until you do, you should probably shut your mouth.
Yeah, no kidding.
But it's fine. You're free to say whatever you want.
Sure.
The rest of us are over here just kind of laughing at you, to be honest.
Yeah, that's
like,
right. That's right.
I played for St. Louis from 1-19 all the way up. You know what I mean? Like I've seen some stuff. You know, I've seen everything there is to see. To realize that none of it matters.
Yeah.
None of it matters. You know, I think there's a lot of respect for everybody involved in that. A ton. Because
absolutely.
Again, if you've met any of these players, Frank or Uzi, or Jeff or Rob, realize they're really good human beings.
Absolutely.
First.
Yeah.
Like that's number one.
I've worked with
that. Like, it's just, you know, we're all trying to build the right team, you know, and build a team that can win, and that looks like a great move for everybody.
It definitely seems to have worked out on both sides. I mean, as soon as that whole thing seemed to figure its way out, from, you know, sitting here watching the St. Louis Ambush play, everything seemed to gel pretty quickly. And on the other side of it, like you mentioned, I mean, Frank shows up on scene and, you know,
does what Frank does, man.
Just what Frank does. I had the opportunity to work with him and Uzi at the King's Cup that they do in Ontario, and I did some interviews with some of the players and stuff, and worked with them. Did some color commentary the first year, and they're absolutely amazing people. I love them both dearly.
Yeah.
I mean, I really do.
There's a lot of people that have met them that say the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, really, really great guys.
Typically, the people that have something else to say.
Well, I mean, they're judging a person's personality based on how they play on the field. I mean, and you can't do that. I mean, you can't do that. There are people that do play similar to the way they act and are, but there's a lot of people that don't. There's a lot of people that they're a different player than they are person.
Well, you know, and I got to say this because I saw this popping around from all sorts of different angles, all sorts of different people. Lots of people posted, you know, a history of the teams that a player had played for, and they're like, look at this, it's clearly blah 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 blah.
Right.
How many of those teams on that list even exist still?
Right.
So.
Right.
Okay. Whatever.
Whatever.
There's plenty of people I hate in this league that, you know, from, you know, as players or whatever, because I just think they're bad humans. Genuinely, like, I just don't like them. I don't really associate with them. And not that they can't change or get better or grow, whatever. But there are some others that are just great people. I have no problem stepping in and defending.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay, so let's talk about the key issue of the day. Let's talk about the Ambush 2.
Yeah.
You guys, first, for those that don't know, explain what the playoff story is, because you got only one game left and you guys are in a heated battle, and there's a similar battle on top of each of the divisions in M2. So somebody that deserves a playoff spot probably isn't going to get one. Talk a little bit about.
Definitely is not going to get one.
Right.
You know, either however this shakes out, but basically we have three divisions in M2, and we're having a 4-team playoff. So they're going to take the 3 division winners, plus the best overall 4th place team. So put your 3 division winners on top. Whoever finished the best second to those division winners is going to make playoffs. It goes by points. Then I think goal differential and then win percentage, but I can't remember. I can't remember the whole thing. But the way it shakes down for us, because we have an overtime victory against Iowa Demon Hawks when we went there the first time. We had them beat. This is the thing that sucks the worst. We had them beat with 40 seconds left. Ball in their end. And, you know, they ended up scoring on a counterattack after that to tie the game, but we came right back out. We adjusted some things, ended up getting to the top of the box, scoring a goal, winning the game. Because we had to share a point with them, we're now a point behind them in the standings, because we also went to a team that we had beaten, like, on aggregate, I think by like 10 or 15 goals or something like that. We went back to their place and laid an egg completely. So we have nobody to blame but ourselves. Literally nobody to blame but ourselves. But now the situation is, as long as Iowa wins out their last 2 games, and you know, even if we win our last game, they'll still finish ahead of us. Now the best 4th place team is subject to the whole rest of the league.
Right.
So there's a division where there's 3 one-loss teams, and Wichita right now is going to have a big game this weekend. And if things go one way, we'll get in. If things don't go that way, they get in. So
Corey, I'm looking at the M2 standings right now, and it shows the Ambush as 1 point ahead of the Hawks.
Yes, right now, but they have 2 games in hand.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and we have 1 game. So they'll finish 1 point ahead of us, I believe, because they're a 2-loss team, but one of their losses was an overtime loss, and they'll get that point.
Correct.
Which sucks because obviously we beat them twice. They're only 2 losses in 2 years, but you know, hey, they are still undefeated on the road, though. Unfortunately, they don't have any more road games left. So I would look forward to another trilogy of home matches in Iowa.
Well, and aren't they hosting the playoffs?
They are.
And the division, it's the Midwest West division. It's the Savage 2 and the Wings that are also separated by only 1 point, but they're sitting at 29 and 28 points respectively. Yeah. So they might be the odds-on favorite for the 2nd place team that advances. Right.
So if it looks like it'll likely be Chihuahua finishing first there, which would mean Wichita would finish 2nd, but I believe we would also finish with 29 points, but have a higher win percentage and a higher, not win percentage. We have a higher goal differential. Goals for and goal differential.
It's really coming down to the wire, isn't it?
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's
literally. We just need them to lose. If they lose, we're cool. Yeah. But it still would come down to, like, you know, goal differential essentially, or maybe it's goals for. I don't remember which one it is, but I think it's goal differential. That's going to end up coming down to. So.
You've mentioned that you've played the Hawks 3 times and beat them twice.
Yeah.
The thing you didn't mention is that every one of those wins for both teams has been on the road.
Yeah. So they came to us. They came to us, man, and what we didn't do in that home game, we did in the 3rd game.
Right.
And you know, it was it was a much better result. But yeah, that one was tough. The scoreline of that one was a little bit closer than what it kind of seemed. We were literally a couple of points away, a couple of like really big moments that we didn't capitalize on from completely taking over that game. We ended up having to get out of what was working later in the game because the game stayed like 6-3 for a while. Or maybe it was 7-3 for a while. And then when we had to open it up, those 6 attacker out there, that's where, we got a couple, they got a couple, and it just kind of was a stalemate. So we said, all right, we're gonna learn from this, and we'll see in 2 weeks. And then we came back in 2 weeks, and it was a very, very, very different story. So we had a good time out there, both times.
So I've got 2 questions concerning the relationship between the M2 and the M1 organizations and what's going on in St. Louis. Okay, the first one is, do you guys do very much swapping back and forth of players?
So, I have a total of 5 players that I can use from M1 that are signed M1 contracts. The way it works is there's 2 primaries, and then there's 3 limiteds. So if you're listed as a limited, once you've hit your 12th game with M1, you can't play M2 or whatever. Whatever the rules.
I get it.
So we do use certain players to try and get them either some extra touches, some extra runs, some extra game time. And we've done that several occasions. Actually, I didn't have anybody for this, or I had one of those players, Louis, for this most recent victory in Iowa when we beat them this past weekend. But we do get to use the M2 platform for that to really help get guys in and get some more touches and get them fit. But we've also had 3 players now sign M1 contracts from M2 and get some time and get some game time with M1, which is really, really cool. So I think there's between 4 and 7 players right now that I think have a great chance of getting something very, very soon. Especially as we move forward into the off season. And then there's another block that I would say is probably the same size, about 5 to 7. That I think you give me one more year of this, and we'll be able to get you more time than you received this year. You're staring right at the same thing. So, players these days have such an unbelievable opportunity. Like if I had the opportunity, that's it. Like I got a whole preseason, a week of the preseason, and I was like, just look at me, just try to keep me around as long as I can fit. And now you've got that, but you've got somewhere where you can go show, hey, I told you I'm good enough. Look over here, put me back over there. I can do this, I think I would have benefited tremendously from that. So the opportunity in M2 is huge. And then obviously the tool it is for M1 is excellent. I mean, that's what you need. You need guys that you get a bunch of injuries. What do you pull from? How do you, because you can't just say, I want to pull this good college kid. I don't care how good you are at outdoor. Like, I don't care how good you are at outdoor. It doesn't make a damn bit of difference indoor because it's so drastically different. Your critical thinking has to be so much faster. The style of play has to be very, very different. Your technical ability is way more of an importance than anything else that you have. Like your speed is okay. You can open it up sometimes, but only if you got the control of the ball. Everybody talks about how SK is so fast. SK is so fast with the ball, like lightning with it. His touch is so good that way. Like that's why he's dangerous. It's not that oh wow, you're really, really fast and you shoot hard. You better be technical as hell. So the only way you develop that, the only way you can develop any of those skills, really, because nobody starts as an indoor player. There is no youth indoor league, right? So you're coming from outdoor.
Exactly.
At least for now. But you have to have a transition. You have to have time for that transition, and you have to gain confidence in that transition.
Right.
If you just do okay in practice and then you get thrown into a game, and that game doesn't go well, you might not make it.
Right.
You know,
Yep.
That could be it for you. You may not get another opportunity either. So having that chance to develop, man, it's been so cool to watch, and especially against Iowa, because Iowa's got MLS pros on it. They've got MASL pros on it. They got guys that have played years in our league, and they're playing against guys that haven't. So, being able to develop those guys to that level has been awesome for me. And then getting to see them come up and get time at M1, get signed at M1. And this is like the first year. Like that's incredible. Like that's really, it shows how well that system can work.
Yep.
And how valuable it can be. But also, it gives players that are diamonds the opportunity to be found in the rough.
The other question that I have for you is it's interesting, and see if you have any insight as to why this is happening. But why in one case is the ambush 2 doing so well, and the ambush only just recently seeming to do so well themselves at near the bottom of the ladder?
I think a lot of that has to do with just timing. I mean, how many times have we said, oh, Baltimore's done, Baltimore's out of it, Baltimore's this, Baltimore's that, and then all of a sudden like Baltimore starts peaking right at the right time and they finish 7th, and all of a sudden they get to the semis, and all of a sudden they're all a bunch of champions, they just know how to win. And it's like, well, yeah, you just had to time it right. And maybe they were just the masters of that, and we're just doing it because of, I don't know, we played the top 4 teams in the league 9 out of the 10 games that we played to start the season, right?
Right.
Kansas City 3 times.
Right.
We had to go to Chihuahua twice.
Yeah.
We had to go to Empire 2 days after that.
San Diego came through 2 times.
So timing has a lot to do with stuff, especially in M1. I think M2, we were very fortunate. I had a great preseason with the guys. They came in ready, maybe had the advantage of a longer or better preseason than some of the other teams that we faced early on. So we started hot. And then it was just about, okay, how can we build off of this, right? One of the things about indoor that is so frustrating and yet so beautiful is that every scheme you have can get broken defensively. Everything, every press, every defense, every zone, everything you do defensively can and will get broken because the players at this level are just so elite and so good, and they are up a man minimum. If they bring the goalkeeper into it, they're up 2 men because you have the walls. And there's always a way out. There's always something that gives you an out. You can't just force the ball out of bounds. And again, the talent that this league has technically, it's like watching pro futsal. And you get to see such creativity from it and such transition from it. So I love this game so much. For me, it's one of the most exciting and complex games that there is.
Absolutely.
And I think one of the things I learned, especially from hearing and learning about a guy like Danny Kelly and knowing Keith Tozer, is details matter, man. Details are so important, because if one person is just showing the wrong way, that ruins the other 4 players behind him, or at least 3 of the 4. So, I thought in the beginning M2 definitely had the advantage of a very beneficial schedule that allowed us to really build those foundations and get reps at those foundations, and then build off of those foundations to try and adapt to strengths and weaknesses the other team has. And all of them have weaknesses, and all of them have strengths. You know which players to watch because you hear about them, you see them statistically, but there are some players that are so vital in other areas that if you can neutralize or pick on or wear down or find the guy that's not him. Let's not do that when he's on the field, but let's do that when this guy's on the field. Let's find that one. Yeah. And you start writing numbers on the board, and guys start hunting them, and then all of a sudden they get behind in games, and all of a sudden they're yelling at each other, and then things fall apart on their end. And meanwhile, we're going, everything's going as planned, awesome. And then that's why we have done so well. And then, you flip to the M1 side. I don't necessarily think that our schedule is easy at all. But we just didn't have the gauntlet in the back half of the season that we just had at the front of the season. So now we're starting to get our legs. We're preparing for the playoff gauntlet because that's when you're going to see the best out of everybody. So we're getting to our best. We're clicking as far as pressure, our movements. We're getting timing with each other. Again, those I cannot overstate. The pieces that we brought in have been so vital for that. But it's also really good scouting too, because it's all guys that fit the ideology, the system, the style. Chemistry is so much of this game because everything's based on windows and timing. If you're not here right now, or if you're here a little bit later or too soon, it's a turnover. It's just a turnover. So
exactly.
If I check forward and check back here, I want the ball right here, and you put it there, that's a turnover, right? So it's just developing chemistry. It doesn't mean that player's bad or this player's good. It's just you have to understand each other, and we are really, on the M1 side, we have really, really done a good job to develop that, big time.
Yeah, and it's showing, and it really is showing. Yeah. I took a look at the tiebreaker for the M2.
Yeah.
And it reads points, regulation wins, head to head, goal differential, and then goals for, and then goals against. So
check. Wichita.
Yeah.
Buddy. we need to go back to Iowa. We like Iowa.
I guess so.
We want to go back to Iowa. All the boys, everybody. Here's the crazy part. I got to use the differences in my lineups have been crazy, and I've been unbelievably fortunate to have the group that dedicated. I mean, I've got these guys. We have 20 plus players at training, so I have my goalkeepers all competing. I have my third line competing against my fourth line trying to get to the third line trying to get to second line trying to get up to the top 5 guys. And then I got guys that are coming down from M1, and everybody's just competing. Everybody's competing every day, and they're bringing that culture every day. And I got to tell you, man, I had to go to Iowa this last time with primarily guys that if it wasn't their first game, it was their second game or third game.
Oh boy.
And their first 2 were against I would say some much softer competition than the Iowa Demon Hawks, and the talent that they have over there. And it didn't matter. It just didn't matter. All those guys just were able to execute what we planned for, execute what we trained. There was such detail that went into who, when, how often that we did things, that to see that group do that was just incredible. It was just incredible. And I told them after the game, I was like, I don't care what anybody says. What you did tonight, what you did the last time we were here, validates you as a player, because that's what the level is. Iowa's what the level is. They're good. Yeah. Iowa, Chihuahua, San Diego too. They've got players that are at the level. And if you can do well against that,
Right.
you know, you validated yourself in a lot of people's eyes.
Yeah. San Diego got kind of messed up with a travel issue.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
sucks.
Yeah.
That really sucks. Because I think
really did.
I think for sure they finished first.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Maybe second. Maybe second.
yeah, they got the Wings and the Savage in the same division.
That's tough.
So
That's a tough group, man. It's a tough group. It's a tough group. It really sucks.
Yeah.
Like I hate the way the divisions were made
Right.
because of that. But I wish they would have played each other more though.
Yeah, I mean, with one division having 4 teams and another division having 7, and then you guys have 5 in your division. You know,
I would have loved to have seen a 4-4-4 division with,
right,
you know, top 2 teams making it,
right,
from each division and having a true playoff to see
I mean,
who really has the best team. But now
it's really interesting. It's really interesting, Corey, because if you look at the M1, you know, 2/3 of the teams make the playoffs.
Right. Yeah.
And if you look at M2, 4 out of 30 teams make the playoffs.
It's crazy. Yeah. It's just crazy.
I mean, there's not 30. There's, what is there? 16?
I think
so
16.
4 out of 6. Yeah, 4 out of 16 teams make the playoffs, and 8 out of 12 in M1.
And it's coming down to goal differential. You know what I mean? So
and it's coming down to goal differential. Yeah, absolutely.
Could I should say could.
Yeah,
so,
it certainly could. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to maybe a recap after the season's over.
We can do that. And you know, there's no telling I won't be seeing you in San Diego in a couple of weeks.
Really hoping for that. Really planning for that right now.
Yeah, that would be really cool to see that happen. All right, Corey Adamson, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. This was a fun conversation. I think you had me laughing halfway through it, man, all the way through. It was really good stories. I really appreciate
awesome.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much, and have yourself a great day.
Yep. You too.